tonight, Darby's downfall paving for 60's time to shine over the next several days. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for July 16th. Well, here we are with another bulletin, and we have two systems active. Darby, which is rapidly weakening in the Central Pacific, as well as the formed Tropical Depression 6E, which is likely to become a tropical storm within the next few hours. The total storms for this year remain at 35. That's probably going to be increasing to 36 very soon. Looking at the Atlantic, there is nothing going on the 46th day of hurricane season. Nothing expected in the next 5 days, and it seems things are going to be remaining pretty quiet for much of this month, although we are looking out for the MJO, which should probably be returning in the next 2 weeks and jump-starting Atlantic activity again. In the Eastern Pacific, it's day 63. We have Tropical Storm Darby, which does not have much of a future left, and there's also Tropical Depression 6E. That's forecast to become a Category 2 hurricane. It's likely to get named as a tropical storm at the next advisory by the National Hurricane Center. So looking for chilling. In the Western Pacific, there are no systems active, and unexpected the next 5 days. NW was taken off ATCF finally. There's pretty much nothing left to it at all anymore, and as such, there is no reason for it to be an invest. So luckily, the Western Pacific has remained quiet. Invest 96A, that is at a 0% chance, like pretty much everything else in the North Indian Ocean. Not sure why this was designated yet again, but it should be making no strides in terms of formation due to the fact it's got pretty much nothing good for it. It's only sea surface temperature, everything else is pretty much garbage. Here's a look at Tropical Depression 6E, and you can see it's looking pretty good. It's got quite a lot of convection going on for it, and it's starting to get that spiral-like structure, which is pretty much everything you want to see for a developing cyclone. It's got really good conditions for the next 3 days for sure. I believe the National Hurricane Center did highlight the fact that this does have a 50% chance of intensifying 75 miles an hour in the next 72 hours. You can see what's going on in the Atlantic. Not much going on. There's an extratropical low, barely any convection going on with the Siberian Peninsula. Another large one that is passing through Greenland, and other than that, not much going on there. Eastern Pacific, you can see Darby kind of fading away there. It's got no convection left at this point. A little burst to the west of it now, though. And there's also 6A to the south of Mexico that is looking quite a lot better than Darby now. In the Western Pacific, not much going on. You can see an exposed level of circulation to the east of the Mariana Islands. There's a bit of a disturbance going on that just went through Japan recently. And there's another disturbance to the right of your screen there. And in the North Indian Ocean, you can see 96A. It's that little burst of convection that you keep seeing in the Arabian Sea. But there's no convection that's organized associated with this. It just shoots it out and then pretty much dies within a few hours. In the Southwestern Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on. Not much going on towards the Madagascar region, but you can see towards the northeastern part of the basin there's quite a bit of a mess going on in regards to cloud cover, so interesting disturbance there. And Australia is looking pretty dry except for the southeast region, which is dealing with some cloud cover at the moment. Other than that, things are looking pretty alright over here. And then looking at the sea surface temperatures, you can see the temperatures are around 28 to 29 to the south of Mexico, pretty good for what 6E is on right now. Temperatures under where Darby are around 26 to 25. Gulf of Mexico, we're seeing more areas around that 29 to 30 degrees Celsius isotherm. Caribbean around 27 to 28. My main development region started to see those 29 degrees Celsius temperatures pop in, and we're starting to see those 30 degrees Celsius temperatures actually enter the Gulf Stream into the Western Atlantic now. Up into Georgia is where those 30 degrees Celsius temperatures now extend, so that is interesting to note. Arabian Sea is around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius on the northern part of the basin before they do drop off quite significantly to around 25 in the southwestern part of the basin. Bay of Bengal around 28 to 29. Western Pacific, it's around 28 to 30 degrees Celsius throughout the majority of the basin. And as you head into the southern hemisphere, it's around 26 to 27 in the northwestern part of Australia, before it does decrease to around 25 to 24 degrees Celsius as you head into the southwestern Indian Ocean. Nothing that's really changed in the last few days or so. Moving on over into the sea surface temperature anomalies, you can see what's going on here. Above average temperatures in the main development region, Caribbean, as well as the Gulf of Mexico and Western Atlantic. Eastern Atlantic looking below average in the subtropic side of things. We've also got the Western Pacific above average, Bay of Bengal looking above average, that anomalous temperatures to the north of Japan there, and the Eastern Pacific is starting to see some areas where the temps are slightly above normal. In the Atlantic, in terms of ocean heat content, we still have the eastern death spot in the Gulf of Mexico. In the Caribbean, we've seen those ocean heat content values raise, and there's a bit of an increase in the main development region as well. Western Pacific continuing to see this ocean heat content values up there, while the Eastern Pacific continues to remain pretty low overall. So nothing too surprising with what we've been seeing there, that's for sure. Models are pretty lackluster at the moment, given the fact that there really isn't much going on. The only activity is going to be occurring in the Eastern Pacific the next 2 weeks, but doesn't mean that there's not much of it. There seems to be quite a bit of it, looking at the GFS 18-day run. And you can see what is going on with 6E, probably going to become a tropical storm shortly, and the GFS does strengthen up to Category 2 within the next 2 to 3 days. It might take a little bit longer. The National Hurricane Center has this peaking at day 3, and then it ends up maintaining a little bit. Looks like the GFS doesn't really account for the cooler waters until much afterwards, and it is likely by day 5 it is down to Category 1 at the absolute most. It's probably going to be down to tropical storm by that point, given the fact it will be weakening substantially due to the unfavorable conditions. Needless to say, it does appear pretty likely at this point, pretty solid given the fact that this is agreed by many models, that 6E will become the 5th hurricane of the season. Looking at the longer range, you can see what ends up happening to the rest of the storm's life. Ends up weakening as it continues to go northwest. Looks like Baja shouldn't be seeing much apart from maybe some recurrence. Other than that, not much going on. New circulation tries to get itself developed. Might become a tropical depression, but you can see there's another circulation developing to the west of it. And eventually that eastern circulation does die as another system seems to be getting itself together. It doesn't look like it's together too much on this frame here, given the fact it's extremely elongated, but it probably seems like something that would get itself together afterwards. Just a reminder, you can go to our Force 13 store, request animations, buy some of our merch, and if you feel the need to, you can also buy one of our infamous pillows that, as you can see, we are very joyful about selling. Silly range is pretty uneventful compared to normal. It's just looking at the Eastern Pacific yet again, and this is what ends up happening. We see a pretty messy storm that ends up still managing to become a hurricane in standard GFS tradition, before weakening as another storm continues the train, it appears, with hour 360 being the generation of the next storm, and it pretty much becomes a tropical storm as well. So if you counted, that would have been 4 storms that the GFS has in the next 2 weeks here for the rest of July. So, you know, July is the month we typically see the trains. Things quiet off in August and September, and that's in time for the Atlantic to start producing stuff. So yeah, it's about what you would expect, although the Eastern Pacific has been a bit above average compared to what you would expect for La Nina, that is for sure, but nothing really too dramatic expected, apart from, you know, a few tropical storms and hurricanes in the Eastern Pacific. Other than that, Western Pacific's looking quiet, Atlantic is looking extremely quiet, and everywhere else is remaining generally quiet. And on this day, we're going back to 2017, which is an infamous year in the Atlantic, but we're really not focusing on the Atlantic side of things with this on this day. We're looking at Hurricane Fernanda in 2017, which was about to weaken to a Category 3 and previously attained a peak of 155 miles an hour by analysis in the Eastern Pacific. There was also Talas, which was weakening in Vietnam, and also there was about to be Tropical Storm Dawn forming in the main development region. You can find more of our products for on this day, powered by Cyclone History, as well as have our edited imagery, powered by Cyclone History, on the Twitter tag below there. So, with that being said, the next names in the Atlantic are Danielle, followed by Earl. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking out for Estelle and Frank. And in the Central Pacific, because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like Kone is the truth. Moving on over into the Western Pacific, the next 2 names here are Songda, followed by Trazaz. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next 2 names here are Sitrang, followed by Mandis. And those 2 names are names I should still be saying for quite some time, given the fact that it doesn't look like anything is actually going to be becoming formidable enough to be a cyclone anytime soon there. In the Australian region, the next two names are Darian and Ellie. In the southwestern Indian Ocean, the next two names are Ashley and Bolita. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Holly. We'll be back for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.